This is me looking confused while I'm trying to figure out if the live stream has gone actually live yet. Hey, everybody, I'm Lee, and welcome to Grimmleighs Fiends. And this is our third ever live stream, which is pretty exciting for me because anytime anybody wants to join in and watch me draw or talk to me about art or anything like that, I consider that a personal gift from you to me. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I will be continuing on with some art that I did the other day. I had a recent video, which I will be linking for people who are watching this after the live stream, of a warm-up session that ended up turning into a bunch of pretty cool pumpkinhead creatures. So I inked those up yesterday and today, and tonight I will be coloring those in live. So we've got everything linked up here with the iPad. And if you are tuned in right now and you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you about anything, whether it's the art process, my version of the art process, because I'm mostly self-trained. Yes, I did go to art school, but I paid about as much attention to that as I do to a lot of things that I disagree massively with. I'm not saying you shouldn't pursue art education. I think in hindsight, I wish I had paid a lot more attention. There were some very intelligent people that had a lot of important things they could have shared with me if I'd been a little more receptive to it. So enough about that, though. We'll get to coloring here in just a second. If you like what we're doing here on Grimmleighs Fiends, please give us a like and a subscribe. And of course, I'm using the Imperial us here because I'm really the only person in the room, aside from the occasional voice in my head, but we won't talk about that too terribly much. Spooky season is here. As far as I'm concerned, the beginning of August is the first month of October. And no, I'm not saying the first month of Halloween. I'm saying the first month of October. It's a 4-month celebration for me that goes from the beginning of August until the end of November. And it's because we're starting to see a little bit of cooler weather here, especially in Salt Lake City. We've gone from our triple-digit temperatures that we've had for the last couple of months down to much more mellow weather, seeing a little bit of rain, which is great considering we're in the middle of a drought. So it's nice to see, and it just gets me ready for that Halloween season. So I call it the first month of October because that's when the first of the October merchandise hits the shelves. Definitely gets me excited and in the mood to draw some creepy, cool content. Hey there, Trevor. Thanks so much for tuning in. How's it going tonight? It always sounds a little strange when I'm talking to people live here, but I do have the chat going. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I'd be happy to answer them. The first thing I'm going to do with this art is put an overlay on it. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it gives me a little tonal quality just to begin with. So I'm going to fill this entire screen with kind of a warmish grayish brown. There's going to be a lot of illustrators you see who actually work with charcoal or with crayon who will draw directly onto a gray paper or a dark gray paper, in some cases black paper. And the reason why they do that is they can build up tone, build up some highlights and some lighter values with the lighter colors. So I try to do that when I'm coloring. Even digitally, it works pretty well. If you're not too familiar with Procreate, one of the really cool features here is I have this new layer selected, and that layer, let's go ahead and make it a multiply layer, and we could leave it, maybe we'll leave it as a darken layer. And you can just drag the puck directly onto the screen, and it just fills the entire screen with that color that I selected. So if it's too dark, of course, you can go in here to your canvas. He says as he loses his way in the system. There we go. I can go in here and change the hue if I wanted to make it more of a lighter color or cooler color, warmer color. You can do all of that in there. So, but I like the brownish that we were working with. Might change the saturation just a little bit and maybe make it just a little bit brighter. There, we have exactly what I was looking for there. So that's perfect. All right, now we're going to put in another layer, and this will be the color layer. I think we may have children of kindred spirit, Trevor. My youngest pretty much does Halloween year round, but considering my wife and I, that's not a surprise. We're pretty much eternal Halloween people. So it's not a goth thing either. It's just an absolute adoration of the spooky season. It's good stuff. All right, so whenever I color, I go into a multiply layer, and I like to color with the airbrush. Airbrush is my absolute favorite tool to paint with. Hey, Stuart. Okay, Stuart's question: how was it for making the transition from traditional media and materials to digital? Any issues there, or just goodness having it all in one gizmo? So, as far as transition, I haven't fully transitioned yet. I still like to do a lot of traditional art, but it's really nice having everything just right here. So I was stressing out a little earlier today. I was at an art supply store and I was trying to find the right micron pens to ink with, and ultimately realized that I don't need them because it's all right here in the sketchbook. So I have my digital files, I have my proofs, I have my masters with me on this iPad that frankly has paid for itself about 15 times over since I bought it 5, 6 years ago. Um, so having the media with me all the time, being able to change my brushes around all the time is fantastic. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. But what I do like about digital is that you can emulate traditional mediums so well. And that means that, for instance, anything that I learn while I'm painting with acrylic on real physical medium, it transfers over to the digital world pretty well. So those same qualities, those same tones, those same uh, techniques that I'm learning, they transfer over really nicely. Now, things involving water, of course, don't, but and I don't change brushes around very much, which I should probably start doing because there's some really cool watercolor brushes out there that you can do some really neat stuff with, and I just don't mess with them too much. And I should. That's I'm limiting myself by sticking with the stuff that I really enjoy. All right, so go in and just start layering in. I could use a mask, but I actually just like the feeling of coloring directly in between the lines here. It's soothing, it feels good. And as I was talking about with the video about warm ups, I really find this whole process meditative, so I don't mind taking a longer time in doing it. Probably go with a larger brush though. This could take forever to do it. As you can see already, we have some nice contrast between the orange of this pumpkin and the background, which is just there behaving itself for me. Oh, nice. Thanks for the news update there, Washington Post. Not even a subscriber, but they're still banging me up constantly. One of the things that I need to start working on doing is spending more time with my inking. I like to take a really thick nibbed brush and just go to town and get some thick, chunky lines in there. But that takes me away from some of the tighter details that I also like to put in my work. So I have to learn a happy medium between the two. One of the things that I've been working with lately is working with a digital technical pen that doesn't have a wideness setting. It's just it's just like a real world technical pen, and going in and using that for some of the tighter cross hatching and whatnot. This guy that I'm coloring now is kind of a inside joke for me personally. Back in the late 1990s, my wife and, well, geez, not just my wife, my parents and I all had jobs as table game dealers at a tribal casino in Central Oregon. And so that guy, he's wearing about as close to the dealer uniform that we had to wear in that casino. It was a terrible monkey suit, basically. You got to wear these, um, this old fashioned tuxedo collar with the ruffs and terrible, terrible polyester bow tie and a cummerbund. And because it was a Western themed casino, they insisted on wearing these stupid arm garters. So that's why he has cards. Um, when I was doing the warm up exercise, that's just who he turned into, oddly enough. So since I'm doing pumpkin heads, that's why I'm doing all of the color all at once for these guys, because we might as well. It's going to be the same color across the board anyway. And anybody, if you're watching right now and you have something you want to see during one of these live streams, leave it in the comments. I would love to consider just about anything. The focus of the channel, of course, is on spooky stuff. But spooky stuff can be just about anything. I just enjoy monsters and creatures and mythology. So if you keep it in that category, we'll all have a really good time. But there's some good stuff coming up. I'm really excited for October. I have to be careful though. There's a couple things that don't really fit the nature of the channel that I want to do videos on. So I'm trying to force myself to stay consistent. Oh yeah. Yeah, Trevor, absolutely. The table games job was the least ethical job that I ever had in so many ways, because it was, you're preying on people's insecurity, and it doesn't matter how skilled you are. There are a lot of folks who will come into a casino and they'll have a system, and they'll have a acceptable margin of loss before they'll give up on that system. And it doesn't matter. It's like military tactics. No strategy survives engagement with the enemy. No gambling scheme ever actually survives engagement with the table games department. There's strategies, there's card counting, there's all kinds of things you can do to offset the potential damages that you're going to take, but the house is favored to win always mathematically. It's just, yeah. So I always say, if you want to go and gamble, just expect to lose, and anything that happens above and beyond that is good news for you, right? All right, Casey, how's it going? I think we can do some Cenobites. They're so freaky when they're done right. Casey's saying that Cenobites from Hellraiser would be cool. They're an interesting thing, because I know Clive Barker was deeply affected by his religious upbringing when he created the Hellraiser characters. So there's a lot of heavy-duty Catholicism wrapped up in them. And I didn't grow up with that particular flavor of religion, so I don't find them scary so much as I find them disturbing. And they're like the personification of Pandora's box meets ego, right? So it's whatever your ego is most trapped up in is what you become when you open the lament box. At least that's what it seems like to me. But yeah, we can do some of those Hellraiser creatures. They're awfully neat. A big old raven. Cool. So Stuart said that a raven would be cool. I've done a raven before. I should share that. I like drawing birds. I've mentioned that in probably every live stream that we've done so far. It was always a challenge for me when I was younger. So I made it a point to draw them whenever I had the opportunity, and now I just have fun with them. They're awfully neat. You know, I missed a pumpkin over here. Can't believe I missed this poor dog. This poor dog. Glad you're doing good, Casey. All right, so we've got one vote for a Hellraiser theme, and we've got another vote for a raven. You know, that's a good point, Trevor. The monsters from The Witcher are super cool, and we've got the new, was it Season of the Wolf, the new animated series that's coming out. And I was thinking about doing a deep dive on those for the channel, actually just talking about the monsters and the creatures and that, because people seem to like it when I talk about the monsters from media, but it's so hit and miss. Like, I did a video on Doom Patrol monsters, and people kind of dug that, but Doom Patrol's pretty niche, right? But then you do one video on the Green Knight, and all of a sudden that's like your most popular video. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm not complaining, but I don't really get it. So Stuart says all the bright colors, loud sounds, and straight lines in casinos with no clocks, free booze, straight up psyops. Yeah, it is straight up psyops. And there's a reason why there's no windows. They don't want you to see the passage of time. They want people to be in there for as many hours as possible. That's their psychological algorithm, right? They want you to lose track of time, because then you don't realize that not only have you lost money, but you've lost time there. So you'll never see windows on the actual gaming floor. And the only way I learned that I could tell the passage of time was from shift change. Like if I was not the craps table that I worked in 10-hour shifts. So the only way I knew how the passage of time was going was when the blackjack dealers traded out. So if they traded out at, I knew it was either 2:00 in the morning or 7:00 at night or whatever. So they really do find ways to mess with you in those places. So let's get some lighter details in there. Get some highlights. What I love about digital illustration is everybody who does it has a different technique. And I wish that I had actually learned how to do it from somebody else before I just started dabbling with it. This guy looks like Charlie Brown a little bit. Because there's definitely a better way to do all of this than how I do it. But the way I do it works for me. I like to use the blend tool. I see some people that do some amazing work just by drawing a line of shading and letting that do the shading form without actually getting too caught up in the specifics. But I have a system, and this is the system that I used when I worked with marker a lot, because I used to use a lot of alcohol markers. And the thing with alcohol markers is that you can draw a light color and then you can blend with an even lighter color or even a darker color. But it just tends to be the same way that I work with this stuff. Hey, Zero. How's it going? Yeah, definitely agree. I should be making my own monsters. But those monsters from The Witcher are really neat. So I'll still do a video on it. I should draw them too. One of my favorite Witcher stories, I'm hoping, shows up in the second season with their take on the Beauty and the Beast. It was so much fun. And so I'll just get some highlights roughed in here. And my general theme with anything with digital art is don't be too precious with it. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't be too precious with it. So I will just block in big chunks of color, go to town with that stuff, because you can get some really good dramatic effects. I can't believe I forgot this pumpkin. Whoa. There we go. That is not the color we're looking for. Oh well. Number one rule of art is erase your art. Yep. Definitely have to mess around with it. Show it who's boss. Unless, of course, you're doing an exercise where you're letting your art show you who's boss. Sometimes you need to do that too and loosen up your ego a little bit. Our egos get too involved in what we're doing. All right, Zero. We had a open question before you joined about what kind of monsters I should do on the next live stream. So your vote is up. is this so pale? We need to go with a lighter highlight there. That's not quite highlighting enough. But again, digital art. Woohoo! Yeah, Stuart, that is it is not beer related at all. Um, I learned a trick when I was painting miniatures all the time that it's best to establish the light source as soon as possible so that you don't make mistakes later on. So when I draw, a lot of times I will pick a side that will have the heaviest outlining, and that'll be where I consider my shadow to be. So, and I don't do a lot of occlusion shading, so I don't really have to worry about that too terribly much. But when I miniature paint, I do a technique called zenithal highlighting, where I will hit the miniatures with a highlight from a certain angle, so that when I'm with a white primer after doing a black and then a gray primer. And then by hitting the miniatures with that certain angle with the white spray paint, it gives me my light source when I'm painting later. So I know where to layer my shadows in. So I do the same thing when I'm drawing. So as you can see right here where I've put the highlights, that's just in accordance with the darker lining on the opposite end of the figure. So it's to help me when I get carried away. Or when I get caught up talking to people instead of paying attention to where my light source is. So, light source is one of those things that I refused to pay attention to when I was learning to draw because, again, I was the greatest source of art humanity had ever seen. And why would I listen to your mortal teachings and mortal methods of art? So, that was my gentle arrogance of youth. I'd also say that art education during that time was not necessarily the best. So when you have a gym teacher teaching art, you're not guaranteed to learn a good quality art education. You're mostly going to be called slurs for not wanting to play football. That's what I learned about high school art class. I had a couple of good art teachers, but for the most part, it was not an emphasis at the Coppertown High School that I went to. They were more interested in getting people to want to go work in the copper mine. Yeah, it's a good technique. The thickness of lines, and plus it's something that if you look at Bill Watterson, we're going to talk about Calvin and Hobbes a lot because he is the master. A lot of people look at Calvin and Hobbes and go, "Oh, cool, great, fun comics," but the guy's art was the best, and he understood line weight better than anybody in the business, and he understood color and color economy better than anybody in the business. And that guy painted with a brush, and so that's what I try to do now is I try to do digital brushwork with my ink because it just looks so cool when you have varying line widths. When you see like old Jack Kirby art, he was also like he did a lot of nib work too. But there's times when Kirby would break out the brush, and you just get these thick, chunky lines in his artwork that just takes my breath away to look at. Because there's also a reckless abandon that comes with that. Like you are an absolute goofy person if you're willing to just take the India ink straight out of the bottle and just start slapping it on the page like that. And especially then, because you're not dealing with permanent media, you are dealing with permanent media. You're dealing with paper that's got to go to a printer probably in a few short hours. And you're over there Jack Kirbying it up with a brush and India ink. That's amazing. That's art. So, I don't even know. My kids went to a science school, so they had an art teacher, but it was a different kind of art. Do they still do high school art classes, I feel like that might have seen its day, but maybe some of you still have kids in school, and I'd be really sad to hear that it's gone because I think it's important. Unfortunately, most of the art classes in my school were only there to give the jocks an easy grade because you had to make sure that they had good grades for their football scholarships. So you'd have kids like me that wanted to learn something about art if you had a good art teacher, and you'd have jocks in there trying to impress girls and throwing erasers and just being general chowderheads. The heads of chowder. I forgot to do my lower jaws. Rookie. Someday I'll learn how to draw. It'll be a great day for me. Make sure the Phantom Butler gets his due attention. What I love, and you bring up a good point, Stuart. Yeah, it was Kirby Watterson. Charles Schultz was a master of black and white art. So you get that much motion across. You're absolutely right. They're gods when it comes to illustration. One of my favorite things that I ever read is one of the first Calvin and Hobbes compendiums. And I know there's been a billion since, there's been a million reprints, but the very first had a foreword from Charles Schultz. And I've read it a million times because Charles Schultz loved Calvin and Hobbes. And that, to me, would be the greatest thing in the world if I were Bill Watterson growing up in the 50s and 60s, and then having Charles Schultz, the Charles Schultz, write the foreword to your first collection of comics. And he referred to Calvin shoes as dinner roll shoes, which I just absolutely loved. Absolutely loved. So I'm sorry to hear that, Zero. I think, it goes without saying that public arts education can be one of the only ways that kids in less fortunate areas even have access to art supplies, and that makes me sad. I mean, here in Salt Lake City, we've had a couple programs that try to make sure that kids have access to art supplies, art education. I mean, for me, living in Magna, Utah, if you're not from Utah and you don't know where Magna is, there's that scene in The Lion King where Simba's sitting with his dad and he's like, "Oh, what's all this?" And Mufasa's like, "All of this is your kingdom, son. All of this is yours. You'll grow up and be a mighty king." And then Simba's like, "But what about that area over there in the shadows?" And Mufasa says, "Well, that we stay away from. That's the darkness. That's Magna." He didn't say it, but I felt it in my bones. That's what he was saying. So yeah, the Magna, I'm sure it has its good points. I'm sure it had its good points, but Magna was a copper mining town. It was an industry town. And I swear that the majority of the emphasis on the education there was on raising people to be good miners and to not question authority. And, if you didn't want to join and work at the copper mine, maybe you'd be a good military person. And that seemed to be the only emphasis. So you get a kid like me who cries at Star Wars and can't catch a ball, even though I was 6'3" and 220 pounds. I was not welcome in that school. And I'm sure they're all dead now, all of those teachers. And I hope that they find some semblance of tolerance for things they don't understand in the afterlife, whatever comes next for them. So, all right. Well, let's get this last guy's blending in and probably get some shading in there too. Spending so much time working on the actual highlights that I'm spending less time on the rest of the stuff. That's okay. All right. Now, when it comes to shading, oh my gosh, I forgot to blend this guy too. You know, if you guys see me missing something, you should type as loud as your fingers can type, because I'm gonna basically say you're all my co-pilots on this journey. We gotta make sure that this thing lands correctly. It'd be really awkward if the live stream crash landed, right? Let's get thinking about doing stickers of these guys. There's a local guy, really sweet person who actually owns a sticker company, and they do die cut stickers. And there's a couple of these that I love, like the clown. The clown, Pumpkinhead clown, I think is going to be one of those people that I really want to maybe see in sticker form. So, hey, Kira. We all have multiple accounts, some of us for better reasons than others. All right. That's too dark. Let's lighten that up. There we go. Yeah, stickers are one of those things that I've always wanted to do, but I always felt that a lot of the people that a lot of the print on demand services out there, um, Cafe Press is fine if you're in a pinch, but I always felt that the quality wasn't quite what I wanted it to be, and it just seems so temporary. But there's some really cool companies, local companies. I would definitely want to do die cut. So, like you were saying, Stuart, we could put them on laptops or water bottles or whatever else. And those UV safe, waterproof stickers are fantastic. And I was looking at Sticker App and a couple of the other online companies that do vinyl stickers, and they're good. The quality is fantastic, especially I think Sticker App does. They have like some holographic options that are just stunning when you really get down to it. But if I can go local, I want to go local. I want to support somebody local and just get some stickers out there. The other thing I really want to do, and I'll pull up some of the gallery art here. Some of the other things that I really want to do is take some of the um, classic Grimmleighs stuff that I've done in the past and color them up and do trading cards, because they're so much fun. This guy is the first option that I'm thinking about doing for a sticker. So I got him on a transparent background, and I need to get some purple in there to contrast with the green. But yeah, Stuart, I will have to check out Redbubble and see how their stuff is. But again, if I can find somebody local that's doing it, I'll have to definitely go with the local person, because I'm definitely an advocate of keeping my money in the community as much as possible, even in a community like Salt Lake City. It's a good town. We can't hold its politics against it. There's a lot of stuff I want to do though. I think it's what happens when you grow up in a silkscreen lab is you you spend a lot of time looking at things that you want to put your art on. You can't help it. It's a compulsion. Oh yeah, the creepy sunflower would be awesome. He's a fun one. I I always have so much fun with the monster flowers, because they're just entertaining to me. I don't know if anybody else likes them, but they make me laugh, and that at the end of the day is what I think can make art the most powerful thing in the world. Is I drew this picture, it makes me laugh. Haha, magic. Let's get the shading in here. Oh, the pumpkin heads are almost done. Well, except for their clothes. Yeah, Stuart, you can see now that I'm shading along the the dark heavy lines. It's just a nice tool to help me be consistent, especially with the when the squirrels are in charge and my brain is 100% squirrel power. It's important that the squirrels see some prompts to follow when they're driving. And for all of you who don't have squirrels occasionally operating your brain and your bodily machinery, I'm sorry. It is quite the experience. They're excitable, easily distracted. Like I was saying, Kira, you probably remember the Phantom Butler pretty well, but he creeps into just about everything. He's eternal. And something of the basis for the Mandelabra, who will be coming up here. The Macabre Mandelabra, the single greatest thing I've ever thought up in my entire life. When the Mandelabra makes his debut here in October, we'll all be able to rejoice in the progeny that was the Phantom Butler. And if you're just joining into the cast, feel free to ask questions. I might even have an answer for you. Yeah. The Mandelabra, the man who burns as a candle. Actually, I have a story for Mandelabra written. It's going to be longer than my typical Grimmleigh story. Usually I try to keep those to about 8 to 12 minutes. But the Mandelabra story, being how it's being released about 2 weeks before Halloween, I want to make it larger and king-sized. It'll be my X-Men, king-sized X-Men #1, or giant-sized X-Men #1. It'll be my Xanadu. When I'm asked at the end of my life if I accomplished everything, it's all, the answer is going to be completely predicated on whether or not I pulled off Mandelabra. If I don't pull off Mandelabra, I will have regrets. But if Mandelabra comes off pain-free, I will consider my life one lived without regret. Also have a couple classic Universal monsters that I'll be releasing as coloring pages. And I was just thinking of Universal monsters with terrible day jobs. So I've got the creature from the Black Lagoon as a lifeguard attendant at a beach. And I just don't think that the creature would do well in a standard like Southern California beach. He's looks like the kind of guy who needs to stay hydrated at all times. I've got the Dracula's brides as daycare attendants. I've got Nosferatu as a sewer attendant. There's just terrible jobs for monsters to have, but again, I find it very entertaining, so stick with it. Which one of these guys should I finish first? I'll zoom out so you can see him better. There we go. All right. So we've got the first guy here on the upper left-hand side is the peasant zombie pumpkin head. The second one on the top left is the sad kid pumpkin head. The third one is the card dealer pumpkin head. The fourth one is the pumpkin mancer. The fifth one is Lord Jareth, the pumpkin head. The final one there is the good boy pumpkin head. On the bottom left, we've got the clown pumpkin head. The second over is the strong min pumpkin head. Then there's the phantom the Phantom Waiter pumpkin head, and then the last one over on the right on the bottom is the Pumpkin Knight. So let me know in the comments which one you want to see me finish off the color on, and I will do that because I value your opinions. All hail a Mandelabra, indeed. It's going to be, I'm having so much fun with that story. And the fact that I'm writing it now and not, a week before it's due is a testament to how much I've matured as a craftsperson. There was a art show I had to go to when I was about 20 years old, and I needed to design a poster for it. And I couldn't think of anything. And I remember hanging out at my mom's house, just beating my head against the figurative wall, trying to think of something. And then I just sat down and drew the whole poster in about an hour, and it was good. It would have been a lot better, I think, if I had, actually spent some time premeditating anything on it, but it worked out. So, but I've learned in my infinite elder wisdom that it's nice to think this stuff through a little bit better. It comes across a little more premeditated and a lot less slapdash. Slapdash, by the way, is probably the greatest word in the history of English. Have I ever? No. No clown, huh? Okay, so we've got one vote for the clown. We've got Pumpkin Good Boy. We've got a vote against the clown. Phantom Waiter's got a vote. And, oh, geez, yeah. Please don't get me started on the Haunted Mansion. This live stream will go all night because the Haunted Mansion is the greatest thing that has ever been created in the history of great things. So, let's see. Stuart, have you ever seen Claude Coates' pre-production stuff for the original Haunted Mansion in Anaheim? There's a melting wax man figure in there that just screams Mandelabra. Hold that thought. Don't go away. I will be reviewing this. This is one of the greatest gifts a person obsessed with ghosts and monsters could ever have. It's the art book of the Haunted Mansion, and it's I'm being attacked by a book. Anyway, it's got everything that you were talking about, Stuart. This book is phenomenal. I will be reviewing it for the upcoming spooky season because yeah, the Phantom Butler will come first. So, all right. And this is the reason why we do the darker background image. Let's turn down the opacity on the eraser. Gonna get our image in there. Yeah, I love anything Haunted Mansion. It's just the coolest thing in the world anyway. It's like the last few times I've been to Disneyland, that's all I did was ride the Haunted Mansion because there's no cooler thing. There's a special on D Plus about it, and I absolutely love the whole history of the Haunted Mansion and the team that they put together for it. Thanks for stopping by, Cyberfae. Appreciate you watching the stream, and we'll be doing these every Tuesday night. So I hope we'll see you again in the future. Get some tallow wax candles here. Haven't seen Bernardo yet. Not Bernardo, Alberto. Badly. Sorry, Alberto. I got your name screwed up with somebody else that I know. Bad. So yeah, doing that just helps doing it against that darker background just helps the colors pop so much more. I don't know if it's a problem if you have a 12-step program for your haunted mansion dependency. Is it really a problem? If you're aware of it and you're working, maybe seeking professional help with it, maybe then it's not a problem. Maybe it's something that you can work through and get some help with. Okay. Let's get his candlesticks in here. I'm going to go with silver candlesticks because he just seems like a silver candlestick working kind of guy. Yeah, that's what I told myself like the 15th time I went on that ride last time I was at Disneyland. I can quit anytime. I'm okay. I don't have a problem. Again, please. Haunted Mansion's different everywhere. Like it's again, if you go on Disney Plus and watch the documentary about it, they've got documentaries about the Haunted Mansion and the Millennium Falcon ride and the quest to make the jungle ride less racist. It's all good stuff. Like everything on there is fantastic, but the Haunted Mansion ride, they really get into the differences between all of the different places where you've got the Haunted Mansion. So, for instance, in China, where ghost stories are kind of illegal, I'm not sure on the technicalities on that, so I'm not trying to be insensitive to the culture here. But my understanding of it is that ghost stories are not permitted in popular culture in China. So when you have a haunted mansion, they instead made it more of a spirit mansion. There's some real differences there because they can't talk about ghosts. And so that's one of the major differences there. I know that the haunted mansion in Paris is more like the haunted mansion in Florida, which is a little different and a lot more elaborate than the one in Anaheim. But the one in Anaheim, I mean, for one, I grew up not too far from Disneyland. So anything from the classic Disney attractions just gets me fired up in a big way. Let's go to my lighter layer. It's all production art, kids. Now let's smudge that down a little. Oh, geez. I kind of remember e-tickets. I remember, so when I was a little kid, take a ride down Uncle Lee's Ancient History Theater. When I was a little kid, Disneyland was free to get into. You could go into the park and just wander around. At least that's what I remember from when, I had a single mom when I was a little kid. And so she was a waitress and she would save up her money and would go for picnic lunches. I loved Tom Sawyer's Island when I was little, when I was like 4, 5 years old. And so I'd just run around Tom Sawyer's Island all day, knock myself out, which is great. If you're a single mom, you need a place that you can take your maniac child to help them work off their over exuberance with life. So yeah, I remember the ticket stubs. Like, you could go and buy A tickets, B tickets, C tickets, D and E tickets, and the E tickets were the most expensive because those were the premium rides, and the A tickets were like the teacups or the Alice in Wonderland ride. Those were just basically elaborate fairground rides. And so I don't even remember how much they were because I was really little, but that was also during a period of time where, when Star Wars figures came out, they were only $1.99. So I don't imagine that an A ticket ride was more than 10 or 25 cents. So yeah, ancient history. A little depressing to think back on, but yeah, I love the idea of e-tickets. I think just thinking about how different it was, not necessarily better. I think a all access pass is the better way to go, but I still get a little nostalgic for that stuff. Shade his knuckle bones down here. I cheat a lot with this kind of art because I'm going to give the impression of bones more than I'm going to worry about actually drawing all of the individual finger bones. He's skeletal. We know he's skeletal. We don't need to go into too much detail with him. Glad you brought up e-ticket rides. That's a trip. It takes me so far back. Let's get the old smudgy smudge going. I'm probably getting too caught up on the shading here because the reality of this, these bones are really not that visible. So oh wow. I would assume that we're of an age then, Trevor, if you remember them from your first trip to Disneyland. Because I think by the time, I think it was about 6 or 7 when Space Mountain was put in, and I think by that time they were just doing passes into the park. Like, you had to pay to go into the park. So get his cuffs in. Realizing I forgot to draw a line. How embarrassing! It's like I brought guests over and forgot to dust these missing lines here. I just assumed I was the oldest person in the world. So now that I've met one of my elders, I will always treat you with respect and courtesy. There we go. Fix that line up. I need to get back up there and do his collar. And it would help if I use the right pen for this. Get back to that airbrush, Lee. You goof. And because I have the opacity turned down on this, every time I go over any part of this, it's just going to make it a little bit brighter, which is great for what I'm doing. There we go. It's like colored pencil on dark paper, but without as much pressure. And get down there. Let's give him a purplish tie. And get some occlusion shading up there. since that's going to be touching fabric. Awesome. I can't do those rides anymore. I've developed a bit of a sensitivity to those kind of motions, and yeah, you're absolutely right. You definitely need a free chiropractic trip afterwards. They really knock you around quite a bit, which is a shame because like Space Mountain and Star Tours are two of my favorite rides. Well, I should say Star Tours more than anything. Obvious reasons. Last time I went on Space Mountain, though, it beat me up pretty good. I was not a happy camper at all. All right, let's give him his gray suit. It's important that he have a gray suit. He's a distinguished gentleman after all. Definitely needs more candles. You're absolutely right. I'll probably put those in later. But again, he is the genesis of the Mandelabra. So it's really hard. I don't want to steal the Mandelabra's thunder, but the Mandelabra, as you know, dictated by history and the mythology of my own mind, has told me the Mandelabra will be dozens and dozens of candles, not just a few select candles. I mean, he needs to leave a trail of wax behind him everywhere he goes. That's just a Mandelabra fact for him. Or as the kid over the garden wall would say, that's a rock fact. The Mandelabra canon. Yes, the Book of Mandelabra, Section 5, Chapter 7. Yea, as it was written, did the Mandelabra set forth, and behind him he set ablaze a trail of wax, and there was much weeping. Oh yeah, I've brought up the Mandelabra a couple times. That's the benefit of the live stream, is that I will talk about stuff that I'm not actually going to talk about in the videos yet. So those of you that are tuning in to watch the live streams, you'll get the fresh goss first. All of the details that are far too sensitive to share with the rest of the world. And of course, because I'm a sucker for a sad story, it's going to be a sad story. The Mandelabra is he's a gentle character. He's a gentle soul. Or he was a gentle soul. Until he was entombed in a wall of living wax. Or something to that effect. All those losers who haven't been hearing about the Mandelabra since birth. Yeah. Mandelabra is, one of the greatest characters ever released in popular fiction. Just hasn't been released to popular fiction yet, so he hasn't been able to take his place in the pantheon of awesome. So you someday should be able to go to your local purveyor of fine mass manufactured goods and pick up your Mandelabra action figure, or perhaps your Mandelabra HeroClix figure, because his combat dial is going to be fierce and amazing. His waxy attack. All right, yeah, Stuart, you definitely know how to flatter a fella. My love affair with Mike Mignola, it's a one-sided thing. I met the guy and he stared at me like I was the biggest idiot in the world. But to be completely honest, he had no idea that he's the only person who's ever caused me to lose my train of thought. It's me being quiet is not a typical thing. It's not something very many people have experienced other than Mike Mignola. And Yeah, I should do a video just on how awesome Mike Mignola is. It'll be a love story. We'll set it to Roxy Music. It's a platonic love, though. Platonic love of a fan, between a fan and the artist who doesn't know he exists. All right. Get the smudgy smudge. I have some cool Mignola stuff. He's just amazing. He's the bee's knees. That's the cool kids say that still, right? The bee's knees. Is that what we say? The cool kids. Do we say cool kids? I just don't know. Is the green too wealthy? Does the green say I am a wealthy butler, or does it just accent? I'm hoping it accents. Let's see. No, Mike Mignola's never had to put a restraining order out on me. Not yet, at least. I mean, he did come out and tell me to stop crying. But, you know, if you have ever had the opportunity to see Mike Mignola's monster cereal art, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. But the monster cereal, that's something we should talk about. If you want to see a monster cereal video, because it is the 50th anniversary of the monster cereal franchise, make sure and sound off on that, because I have some ideas. And besides my youngest, we could do a video on monster cereal treats. They're amazing. You have to experience this. All right. Yes, monster cereal treats. The youngest spawn in the Kade household made those last year, and MK would be the youngest spawn. The monster cereal treats is like Rice Krispie treats, but you use Frankenberry instead, and yeah, it's so good. So yeah, we'll do. Oh, don't color over your lines, ding dong. We'll definitely do a segment on monster cereal. It must happen. Yes, go ahead and plug your Etsy shop. Yeah, it's because it's an art driven family. The youngest spawn has a Etsy shop where they do a lot of really cool stuff, including art pins of Frankenberry. And Frankenberry is amazing. I know that a lot of people probably have their favorite monster cereal, but in my mind, Frankenberry is the ultimate of the monster cereals. I've never really been a Count Chocula person. I thought Fruit Brute was tasty the few times that I've had it, but Frankenberry is. Well, that's all I really need to say. Frankenberry is. So we're just waiting for monster cereal to hit the shops, to hit the stores, especially being that there's a Monster Mash limited edition cereal coming out this year that I believe is a mix of all of the monster cereals, which kind of sounds disgusting and amazing all at the same time. But anyway, Mike Mignola did a drawing of Frankenberry sometime in the past. He's also done Count Chocula as well, but it's amazing. It's just, Mignola fan art. That's how I know he's not really the grumpiest man in the world, because the grumpiest man in the world wouldn't have drawn that cool of a Frankenberry. He would have said, "Screw you guys. No awesome Frankenberry for you. I'm Mike Mignola." And instead, he just unleashed some of the coolest fan art ever made. Well, thank you, Trevor. I've got coloring pages coming up. So many coloring pages coming up. I've got a couple different projects. I want to keep doing the silly monsters like are in the original coloring book. They're fun and they're completely me. But I also have a coloring book of cultural, or should say anthropological mythology and fairy tales. So the first one that's coming up is going to be, well, I've already got one on a Kelpie. I've got another one on Silky, and then I'm doing one on Count Winifred, who was featured in the Green Knight movie, because the actual story of Saint Winifred, not Count Winifred, but Saint Winifred, is a lot different than what ended up in the movie. But I still want to kind of explore both of those stories. And so I'll be exploring that. And those end up on my Patreon page. I end up sharing all of that content there. But then when I get enough of them together, like 24 or 36 of them, I'll go through the process of getting those printed and released to the world, because I really like doing the coloring book content and people seem to really like reading the coloring book content. So as long as we're all happy together, that's all that matters. Yeah, I'll just get sloppy here. It's like finger painting. An epic gamer moment. Winifred's just a cool story. I mean, especially the real story. I mean, the story in the Green Knight was cool. They did a really neat job with it, but it was kind of like their intent was showing the parallels between one character in danger of losing their head and another character who had lost their head. And so showing that parallel in the movie was neat. But the original story, the original Welsh story, is just kind of grim and kind of cool at the same time. I mean, it's definitely a story that's probably more pagan than Christian in its outlook. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for letting me know that epic gamer moment is what the kids say now instead of bee's knees. That's important. I'll update my usage of popular slang to include epic gamer moment instead of bee's knees. I feel so old and outdated when it comes to the slang the kids use. And if you're just tuning in, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to answer them and start a conversation here. Or I'll just keep talking about monster cereal. Saint Winifred was the goat. There, I use some youthful slang. All right, so now I'm just blending in the ghost effect here. It's like finger painting when you're doing it like this. That smudge tool on this heavy of a pressure setting, but you can also swirl, so make it even more like finger painting. All right, I'll just work through this. Get all this blended together. I'm afraid I'm not going to get to all of these tonight. I thought I'd be able to, best intentions of painters with undiagnosed ADD. We think we're going to get through all of the work, and instead, I think we should just focus on the fact that we're actually doing any of the work. So we're all winners now, right? I'm glad we got the Phantom Butler through. Let's pull him out a little bit. He's a fun one. I'll definitely make a sticker of this guy, and when I get those up, I'll put some details on how to find those, where to find them from. And if anybody who's watching after the live feed, if you're watching the recording of the live stream, if you see something that you're particularly interested in, let me know in the comments, and I'll make sure to get those made too, because I just want to plaster the world with stickers of cool pumpkin head art. I think the world would be a better place if we had more pumpkin head representation out there. And there's far more important representation in the world than pumpkin head representation, but I would say it's something that we definitely need to see more of. Let's get a little more of this white in here. A little lighter. That's actually a good question, Stuart. I know some people who really had a hard time with the drawing on the glass of the tablet, and there's some cool sites out there that sell like a paper-like sticker that you can put over the surface of your iPad that makes it feel more like paper. I don't know. I've worked in enough different media, like from painting and airbrushing and whatever else, that I didn't find it too challenging to change how my hand dealt with the difference in the texture. It's never really been a problem for me, but I know some people out there who really struggled with it because it was like, I don't know, relearning how to work with something. But I think it also comes from I've done a lot of sculpture, and with that, trying to envision something, just working with a different type of tactile sensation made it easier for me to work on glass instead of working on paper. And it's the same with painting. Like if you paint on canvas, it's so much tougher and grittier than paper is. So you end up having to retrain your hand on how that process works. Or if you're a person who, for instance, I'm trying to use my shoulder a lot more when I'm drawing instead of just using my hand and my wrist to pull lines. And so with that, it's just training yourself to get used to that different sensation and that different feel. So, but yeah, it's definitely just glass for me, but the sheets, the paper-like sheets, they're really inexpensive. I think you can get a pack of 3 or 4 of them for $10 or $15, and it just sticks over the iPad like a screen protector, and it works very much like that. And I know a couple local artists who use them, and they're quite happy with them. So, all right, there we go. There is our Phantom Butler, and you know what? He needs a little bit of highlighting. Let's go a little brighter there. Go to my highlights layer. Let's get him a little highlight line there. A little highlight line here. It's a little too bright. Let's blend it in. There we go. Yeah, that's absolutely true. They will, because of the texture, they will wear out the nib. Now, this Apple Pencil, this is the same nib that I've been working with since 2016. So 5 years with the same nib. It has not worn down, and I've drawn so much with this thing that I can't really envision having to change the nib out. Um, so yeah, that can definitely be a factor for people. So all right, I think. Well, I was only going to go for an hour, but I think we need to do the clown because the clown is my personal favorite of this batch. So let's get the clown colored in, and then I will post later this week when I get all of them done. I will post a time lapse video of the finished art for all of the different creatures. This is a fun project, and it's funny because when I first started working on it, my intention was just to show my process for warm-ups. It was not to create something that I was going to end up taking any farther than that. But it ended up being just a lot of fun to work on. And I hate to get all Bob Rossian, but sometimes you just got to run with the happy accidents, you know. Full body test. So you're just going to become the clown, is what I'm picking up from that. I love the clown too. Get this man a wig. Hey, it took me years to accept this bald head of mine. Years, I tell you. Get details for the ruff in. And it's funny because the ruff is just, or the frill here, it's just a squiggly line, but with shading and a little extra work, we could, Trevor, Bob Ross is a hack. He's a hack that made a lot of people happy, but Bob Ross is a hack. It's good. It's good that you came to back me up with that. I appreciate it. I have to accept the fact that Bob Ross brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, and for that I'll uh, I'll refrain from being mean about him. But aren't we all hacks in our own way? I All right, MK. Since this is going to be your full body tattoo, what color stripe should we go with? Black and white? Is that going to be the classic? The pronouns are they, them, Stuart. Anyway, what should we go with the stripes? Yes, the Mandelabra will be a thing sooner than anybody knows. The key to Mandelabra was finding an actor to base the character design off of, and so that will be the next step. And I have to have 3 or 4 of the sketches of the Mandelabra done before I share them because of the genius of the now deceased actor that will be playing Mandelabra in my comic strip. Now, I will never say the name of the actor because I'm sure this actor has an estate. and I don't want to deal with that actor's estate. So I will not be calling Mandelabra or giving actor credit to the Mandelabra, because we live in a litigious world and I don't want to be litigated. But damn it, this actor has to play Mandelabra. Some would say this actor was born and died to play Mandelabra. That's how it's going to be. That people will look back in the future and say, oh, dead actor such and such, dead actor X? You mean the guy that played Mandelabra in those comics and coloring pages? Anyway, it took a long time to find the correct actor to play Mandelabra, or to, should we say, portray Mandelabra. And I'm really excited to give them their debut coming up. I'll probably do some teasers of Mandelabra art as we get later into September. And we're not at all into September, so we'll have a little wait. Patience will pay off, though, I promise. It's just the greatest story ever told. There will be, in 150 years, religions based off of Mandelabra, and you'll be the first to see it on this channel. And they'll take it for granted 150 years from now, as they're watching old Mandelabra YouTube videos in the atomic sludge waste fields. But some of them will say, there was a time when there was no Mandelabra, and the children will probably all openly weep, because they won't be able to think about a time before Mandelabra came to grace them and make things better, and maybe the old timers will be able to say that they were there when it happened. It could be one of you right now watching this stream could be one of those survivors of the post-apocalyptic times, and you can tell people about, BM before Mandelabra. They won't believe you. You can try your best. The anthropology of Mandelabra, the wit and wisdom of Mandelabra, Mandelabra's greatest hits on banjo, as performed by Mumford & Sons. Mandelabra goes to White Castle. Mandelabra and the Man. It's a sitcom about when Mandelabra was a boy and he lived in a junkyard with his father. I dream of Mandelabra. I'm just going to remake all of the classic sitcoms with Mandelabra in them. Marcus Cupacabro. I do remember the Cupacabro, but I haven't been on speaking terms with the person who originated the Chupacabro in quite some time. So I'll allow him to carry on that legacy on his own without me. Oh. Let's get that narrowed down a little bit. Scale from Beauty and the Beast, Lumiere to Doom Patrol Candlemaker. Where will Mandelabra fall? Well, on a tragedy scale, he's going to be the single most tragic. On a comedy scale, he's going to be the Jerry Lewis of candle-based monsters. There will be some slapstick quality to the Mandelabra, but the actual tragedy of Mandelabra will also cause people to shed a lot of tears, and then the pathology of the Mandelabra will be just a little less than the Candlemaker, because Candlemaker's freaky. I'm so excited for more Doom Patrol. My words will fail me if I talk about Doom Patrol too much, because that's like one of my favorite early 90s comics. And when I see it being done so incredibly well, that's not the layer I wanted to do this on. Or is it? It is. It isn't. Let's see if it works on this layer. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we do need to rewatch Doom Patrol. Need to get caught up. It's definitely not a show that I think rewards casual television viewers. It just wants to beat you up. Take your lunch money. Okay. Let's get back in the right layer again. Getting distracted by Doom Patrol, which frankly is not hard to do. It's hard because there's shows that I really love, and some of them are better than others. And I can't even tell if Doom Patrol is a good show or not. I just love it so much that it's taken on a whole life of its own in my soul. Oh yeah. So Over the Garden Wall, I hope everybody here has watched that. If you haven't, you need to fix that part of your life. It's a brilliant animated series. And there's a monster in that, the beast, that is just amazing. And that's another art book that I'm gonna have to do a deep dive on, because again, my kids got it for me for one of the many giftings, and it's so good. And the character design and the monster design in that is just top notch. So doing something to cover that and talk about it, I think would be great. Over the Garden Wall is one of those fantastic pieces of media that is so sincere on the surface, and then as you scratch away at it, it becomes more and more sinister until you're really, really questioning about what it is that you were watching in the first place. So epic. How's that swamp green? Is that the right swamp green for us? I think it works. That is the swamp green. When they go to swamps and they say, "Give me the swamp green," this is the green that is given. And if you're just tuning into the feed, please leave your questions or comments in the comments section. I'd be happy to talk with anybody about anything monster and creature related. We're going to wrap up this Pumpkinhead clown here and call it a night in a few minutes. So if you have pressing questions, this will be the time to get them in. would say that it's all, all of that reading is just investing in your future. But that's propaganda, so I'm not going to unleash that on you. I don't want to be part of the propaganda machine. Oh yeah. It's funny because I keep saying that. That's a ism I need to break. The it's funny ism. I say that way too much, so I need to break myself of that. I will learn how. I will be better. Um, the Green Knight video was something that I was not planning on doing, but when we saw the Green Knight, geeked out on it so hard that I thought, oh, I've got this new YouTube channel. How about we talk about the Green Knight movie? And now it's at like the Green Knight video on its own is 10 times more successful than anything else that I've published. So I have this very interesting relationship with that video. I'm really proud of it. I'm really glad of the work that it's done for me. Um, but the majority of the people that are checking out that video are they're A24 fans. They're not necessarily coming over to check out the monster content. So I'm hoping that changes over time, but we'll see. I mean, regardless, I'm really happy with it. I just don't want to turn into a monster movie review site because there's a lot of those out there, and the people that are doing them do them very, very well. But I do have that just deep-rooted passion for Arthurian legend and monster stories that couldn't go it couldn't go without being talked about because they did such a good job with the creature designs in that movie. It was pretty awesome. So thank you. I'm not trying to be ungrateful for the compliment. It's something that I'm really proud of at the end of the day. It's just not the video that I thought was going to be the one that 1,000 people watched, right? So but I'm really tickled with how it did turn out, because like I was saying at the beginning of this feed, when you start doing something like this, you're amazed that anybody watches your content to begin with. And so if you have something that starts resonating with people and they start enjoying it, that's a really cool experience. So yeah, I don't regret the success of that Green Knight video at all. I'm really quite proud of it. Just surprised by the success of it. But if there's anything that I've noticed about A24 fans in particular, is they're very passionate about the media that they consume. It's funny, liar. I'm not a liar. I'm just a fabricator of alternate realities. Strappy socks, gotta get this clown some strappy socks. That's my song. Just wrote it. Okay. You know what? I was gonna do something kind of menacing for the shoes, but this is what color shoes does a clown in a green striped outfit wear? I just don't know what color shoes that clown would wear. It's not like there's a primer on that. It's not like there's anybody out there saying, okay, here's what colored floppy shoes clowns would wear. Oh, obviously purple. Duh. I have never lied. I have spared people the pain of the truth, but I have never lied. Some orange in the sock, but we already have orange in the pumpkin. We'll have to play with that. All right, let's get that blended. Blendy, blend. Blendy, blend, smudgy, smudge. Those are the official words. That's the sound that smudging makes in my head when we smudge. Okay, so if people are reading along with the comments, my youngest child is commenting about a time that I scarred them for life by perhaps telling them an alternate truth about the reason why people hiccup. And I may have inferred that people only hiccup because they're dumb. I don't remember saying this, but I do talk a lot, so it's probable. It's altogether probable that I said it. And it appears to have scarred this human being for life. And so for that, to my expansive YouTube audience, I'd like to apologize to my youngest child for suggesting that perhaps people only hiccup because they're stupid. Obviously, even smart people hiccup. They just do it smarter. That's comedic effect. Anyway, all right. So we've got our white gloves. We've got the black and white striped socks. And let's go with some of those purple boots. And I think we'll definitely be seeing a sticker of the clown. That's going to happen. Because this clown is everything I wanted in a pumpkin clown and didn't know. All right. Let's get some shading in there and a few highlights. Get our highlights. We're not savages. I didn't know you were watching. I love this. I am being outed for all of my missteps as a parent. Yeah, there are things I probably could have done differently. I had no idea that you were watching Delicatessen, or perhaps I did know you were watching Delicatessen, and I just wanted to prepare you for the terrible cannibalistic future we're all facing. But I don't think I remember you being around for that. So, hold on. I will say to you, in front of all of these people, my gathered YouTube audience, I'm so sorry that you got to watch Delicatessen when you were 6 and that it scarred you for life. That's comedic effect there. Whew, man, comedy's getting better by the minute. I need to rewatch Delicatessen too, because I think that City of Lost Children is the more frightening movie that those directors made, and it may have been Delicatessen now that I think about it. But it's a pretty movie, and it taught you a lot about art and culture, art appreciation, right? You appreciate art a lot more because of that, I'm assuming, right? I love that my YouTube alerts are popping up on my screen while I'm drawing. So if you're wondering, that's the Nubifier letting me know about some Star Citizen stuff. These live streams have been helping me with my addiction to certain never to be released video games. But all right, zoom this out. And there we have 2 finished pumpkin heads for tonight. I'd say that's a pretty good place to call it a night for this stream. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be producing some stickers for this. I'll let you all know in upcoming video. I want to see what they look like first before I start making a lot of noise about them. But if you like what we're doing here on Grimmleighs Fiends, please give the station, sorry, I have a long history in radio, so I will call this a station from time to time, but please give the channel a like and subscribe if you would like, and we'll be producing brand new content every week, live stream on Tuesdays, and a fresh story or piece of mythology or exploration of popular media on Thursdays. And I'm looking at putting out information on the artistic method probably once a week as well. But that all depends. The one thing that is guaranteed is these live streams and, of course, the original content we'll be doing on Thursdays. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. And I hope the week treats you well. Hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday. And the best is yet to come. Thank you.